So now that you've got your first project car, you've put a couple of simple mods on it. If you're still deciding what to do first, I've got just the video for you and you can check it out right here. And now you're thinking you're ready to dive in and get your greasy little knucks into that engine. Now you may not really know a lot about engines and you're looking for a simplified explanation of all the moving parts and how they work together and how power is made. Maybe it'd be nice to have a simple animation that shows all the critical parts and how they work. Well, today that's exactly what we've got. We're talking about how an engine works. Let's roll that intro. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sean and today we've got something that I have put a ton of time and effort into. Now at this point I've spent between 25 and 30 hours learning After Effects and creating this animation for you guys. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a like down below. It lets me know that I'm doing something right and that you guys want to see more of this kind of content. Now let's get into it. An internal combustion engine is, very simply put, just an air pump. It brings air in, it manipulates that air, and then it sends the air out. But we know that an engine does a lot more than that. There's fuel, there's combustion, there's exhaust, and all the while we've got to figure out how we're making power and how we're going to get that power to the wheels. So first of all, let's start off with the basics of combustion. As many of us learned back in the day, there's this thing called the fire triangle. And no, that's not some reference to The Last Airbender.
Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
The fire triangle shows the three main things that are required for combustion: fuel, oxygen, and heat. If you remove any one of these things, there'll be no boom. And believe it or not, this is actually a great way to troubleshoot your car if you're having problems with your engine. Check your engine to make sure that you're getting fuel, air, and spark. Now that we know the requirements to get an engine to run, let's talk about the parts that make up the engine. For this example, I'm going to be using an inline 4-cylinder engine for the explanation. First of all, you've got the block, or the bottom end. This is the main housing for important components such as the crankshaft, the rods, and the pistons. And I'll get into what each of these components does later on. Next, you've got the engine head, or the top end. The head bolts onto the block and contains the fuel injection, spark plugs, intake and exhaust valves, as well as the camshafts. Now let's talk about the function of each of these pieces, starting at the bottom. The crankshaft resides at the bottom of the engine block, and this is what turns the vertical motion of the rod and piston into the circular motion that's sent to the transmission. The rods are directly connected to the crankshaft on one end and the piston on the other end. The piston is the cylindrical piece that is directly affected by the combustion of the air-fuel mixture. In the engine head, the valves separate the combustion chamber from the intake and exhaust ports. The valves are open and closed by the camshafts, and the camshafts can be configured in a number of ways, which for the sake of this video and for simplicity, we won't go into too much detail on that. If you want to know more about it, you can look up the difference between pushrod and overhead cams. Fuel can also be introduced in a number of different ways, but for the sake of this video, we're going to just say that the fuel is introduced in the intake. This is technically port injection, whereas fuel that is introduced directly into the combustion chamber is referred to as direct injection. Now, yes, there's a lot more that goes into making an engine run. You've got the cooling system, the oiling system, the ECU controller, and so on. But this is intended for those enthusiasts looking to learn the main parts of the engine and how they function. Alright, now let's talk about the good part. How does it actually work? How do we make combustion? How do we make power? Engines in production vehicles are known as 4-stroke engines because for every power cycle of the engine there are 4 strokes of the piston. The first stroke is the intake stroke. The intake camshaft opens the valve, letting the air-fuel mixture into the combustion chamber. During the compression stroke, the intake valve is closed, and as the piston travels back upward, the air-fuel mixture is compressed and prepared for ignition. During the power stroke, the spark plug fires and ignites the air-fuel mixture. This forces the piston down, and this is what actually creates your power. More fuel plus more air equals a bigger bang. And a bigger bang means
I'm more power, baby! I'm more power, baby! Testify!
In the exhaust stroke, the camshaft opens the valve as the piston travels back upward. This forces the exhaust out of the cylinder and into the exhaust manifold to go to the muffler and out the back of the car. From here, the whole process repeats. Intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. That's going to wrap it up for this episode, guys. I really hope you found that helpful. Leave me a comment down below if you want to see more of this style of content where I create these animations that sort of explain the way that car components work. If you guys liked this video and if you did find it helpful, make sure you leave it a like down below. It really helps me out, helps the channel grow, and it helps the YouTube algorithm know that this content needs to be seen by more people. If you want to see more from me, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you guys on the next one.